would like to call to order the May 7th, 2018 Cabarrus County Board of Commissioners work session. Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you with us this afternoon. First item on our agenda is approval of the work session agenda, which you all have before you. Do I hear a motion to approve? Great, thank you. Do we have a second? Second, all right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes, and we move on to discussion items for action. First up is 4.6, which is appointment of interim clerk to the board, and County Manager Downs will talk with us about that.
Okay, as you know, Ms. Hugie resigned and is moving on to take a position in Durham County, and so that leaves the clerk to the board position open. So we need to appoint an interim clerk, and Ms. Angela Poplar has agreed to take on the interim position. So we need you to formally appoint her as the interim clerk.
Okay, we would need a motion to suspend the rules to take action on this. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. And now I would entertain a motion to appoint Angela Poplin as interim clerk to the board. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes as well. Thank you.
Give you an update. The job has been posted, and we are getting a lot of interest, and hopefully we will start interviewing early next week.
Okay, very good. Okay, we move now to discussion item 3.1. Cabarrus Adult Care and Nursing Home Community Advisory Committee's 2017 Annual Report. We're happy to have Lori Abound. I never pronounce it correctly. I keep trying, though.
It's Abinator.
Abinator.
I appreciate
and Diamond
you trying.
Staten Williams. Great. Good to have both of you with us today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you all. We are hoping just to deliver tonight or this afternoon our annual report and share with you just some updates about what's going on in Cabarrus County in the long-term care realm. My name is Laurie Abinator, and I work as the Ombudsman for Cabarrus County, and I work with Central Atlanta Council of Governments. And in doing that, we work with volunteers in our program, who, of course, you all appoint, just to kind of put those pieces of the puzzle together for you. And Diamond is one of our volunteers, and you'll hear from her in just a minute. And briefly, I just wanted to hit some of the highlights from our report. Community advisory committees are based in state statute, as is the Ombudsman program in federal law. And the volunteers are grassroots volunteers who typically, we go into the facilities, the nursing homes and assisted living homes. We go into these homes, we talk with the residents. That's our number one focus. So we're not concerned so much with the food or the occupational safe and health type things. We go in specifically to talk with the residents, and there's no other entity that does that. We are the group that does that, and in doing so, they will share with us. The residents will share concerns that they have, problems, and it can be something very, very simple, like I can't stand green beans, and I'm given green beans 5 days a week, and I'm going to starve if you don't change this so I can get some different food. Or it could be something as serious as an abuse allegation. So there's a whole gamut of different types of concerns that they may bring to us, and then we will take action on those, fight for their rights, and if we need to, refer it out to another agency for investigation. So that's in a nutshell what we do, and there's a lot of training that goes in there with that. Several of the members came with us this evening. One is Jack Boyer. Jack will raise your hand or wave at us. Jack's been with us since 2009. Tony Swick is here. She's been with us since 2015. Evelyn Miller is here, and she's been on the nursing home committee. The rest are all from the adult care home committee since 2017. And Diamond is from the adult care home committee, and she's been here since 2014. And I do want to just take a moment and thank these volunteers for the work that they do. The Ombudsman program would be faltering if we did not have the volunteers. We are incredibly indebted to them because they are my eyes and ears in the county. They are able to go out much more often and talk to many more people than I ever could, and then they filter to me things that need to be looked into if it's something of a more serious nature. I'm not going to read to you the report that you have. I want you to just know that it is there if you would like to read it in more detail. I did just want to touch some of the highlights of some key trends that are going on in Cabarrus County. Both the adult care home and the nursing home committees currently are stable. We're able to make all of our visits for the most part. In the past, you all heard from me saying we don't have enough volunteers to complete all of our visits. I'm happy to report that both groups are able to make all of their visits at this point. We do have a need as a result of a few resignations that we've received recently. We do have a need for folks on our adult care home committee. So if there's anything that the county can continue to help us do, getting the word out about those volunteers. In the past, that included helping us get the word out on the county website. And if there's any other ways that you all know to help us get that word out, that would be greatly appreciated. Probably 3 or 4 vacancies, I would think, at a minimum, we need to work on the adult care home committee. But I believe the nursing home group is quite stable right now. From the adult care home group, they have shared with me, and I agree, the need for stronger regulations for our assisted living facilities. The adult care home groups have been very involved with 2 facilities in particular in Cabarrus County that hover just over the state regulations, doing just the minimum guidelines. And we are in these facilities regularly. When we see issues in these facilities, we report that to Department of Social Services or to the state agency or whomever we need to. And I would be remiss if I did not thank the Cabarrus DSS staff for the tremendous work that they do. They are wonderful. We work with a lot of DSSs across the state, and Cabarrus County is a true gem, working with the Department of Social Services in this county. The adult care home group would also like you to know there is a continued need in this county and all counties for affordable dementia care. The folks who have dementia, who have a tendency to wander, need a locked unit. They need a safe place where there's increased staff, and Cabarrus County has those, but they typically are private pay only. Those that accept state, county special assistance, we do not have that in the memory care setting, and that's a problem across the state. That's everywhere. But I did want you to know that. In all of our facilities, particularly our nursing homes, we wanted to share that staff supervision, staff turnover, staff attitude, the need for increased training, that those are things that we see in our facilities as one of the main problems and main issues. This past year, just as an update, and I'm changing gears a little bit, as a result of House Bill 248, there were some changes made that I want you to know about to the community advisory committees and the way that they get appointed, that members get appointed. In the past, and in a nutshell, in the past, appointments came or applications came to the county first, and then they came to me. Folks would get appointed first by the county commission, and then we would train them. And as a result of House Bill 248, that has flip-flopped. And now we train them, and once someone has successfully completed their 15 hours of training, then they're eligible for appointment by the county commissioners, which helps. There's many different things that actually helps us streamline. So it's in my opinion, a great change. Another change as a result of that House bill from last year, there are much more stringent attendance requirements of the volunteers. This is not your typical volunteer duty. As you might imagine, folks are going into a wide variety of different homes. This is a special person that does this type of volunteer work. And in addition to everything else, now there's an attendance requirement that the State Ombudsman Office is asking us to be sure that our volunteers uphold. And lastly, before I turn things over to Diamond, all of the CAC volunteers are now have been required to complete a training to become certified by the State Ombudsman Office. And that was a change that was made for North Carolina to get in line to the federal standards. Many other states were already doing that, and now North Carolina is doing that, where the state ombudsman is actually sending a letter of certification to each of our volunteers now. So they've upped the game and required a little bit more from our volunteers, but I think they're all positive changes, just so that this program can continue to work and advocate for the residents and their rights. And that's all I have. Diamond, would you like to share some from your experience?
Absolutely. And good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diamond Staten Williams. I am a council person for the town of Harrisburg, and I'm also a nurse by background. So joining the Adult Care Homes Committee prior to being a council person was very important to me. It was a part of giving back to the community and making sure that the residents in these communities were safe and that their wishes and rights were well preserved. My biggest draw to helping older adults is that I want to make sure that I'm set up as I get older, that people are out there to take care of me. And I want to be that example for the younger adults out here to make sure that we continue on with a great program to make sure that our older adult population have the wherewithal and connections to share their concerns for wherever they may be. One of the biggest things that Lori mentioned to you guys is that a lot of these communities are private pay. So we do see a big discrepancies in patients who have the ability to afford and who need placement in an adult care home community. I have enjoyed every experience that I've been on, and as Lori mentioned, there are two particular facilities within our county who do need special attention. And I would really enjoy if any of our town commissioners, or county commissioners rather, would come out and come with us at any point in time. I think that's an excellent opportunity for you guys to see exactly what's going on in these communities and how we can help our residents of Cabarrus County. And it's important that we show a good face to our community to make sure that they understand that we are there for them and we can be depended on to help them make changes in those communities, even though they do have patient rights. As Lori said, I've been on this committee since 2014, and during that time I've seen a lot of changes, and the committee has done a lot of great things to make sure that the residents are taken care of and that their needs are addressed. We have submitted tons of questions to Lori throughout the years, as well as going as far as to reach out to DSS and the state to make sure that any concern that comes to us is being addressed and investigated to the fullest extent as to where they can go. I think as we move forward, of course, we'll need additional support, volunteers, so anything that you and the county can do to help address that and bring in additional volunteers would be greatly appreciated. I think that's it.
Great. Any questions that we could answer for you all?
Just have one. So how did the citizens of Cabarrus County find out these rankings of these facilities and things? I'm sure there's probably a site or some public way of doing that.
There is. The North Carolina, the Division of Health Services Regulation is the agency that gives them their license. So if they go on the Department of Health and Human Services website, it's simply, the fastest way to do it would be just Google adult care home ratings, and they can read about the infractions that a facility has had, any penalties, like monetary penalties that they have had. There's a star rating system, and it's actually under review right now. It came about just like child care centers have a star rating system, so do adult care homes, and they are looking at tweaking that system. It's fairly new, but that's one way. Another way is to contact my office. The reports, when the volunteers go out and do their quarterly official reports, they do a one-page snapshot report of what their findings were on that visit, and those are public record. And folks can contact me and I can share those. And they can also call my office and I can help them figure out if they have particular needs with any type of financial determining which facilities might help them narrow down that search. I could certainly talk to them about that, and as well as the complaints that I have seen.
I just have one question, Mr. Chairman. On the Cabarrus County facility, the number of facilities, do you have vacancies, or what's the process of how do you fill your vacancies when you have them and all of that, just out of curiosity, and for the viewing audience as well?
How do we feel, let me make
The
sure.
vacancies in the nursing homes and the adult care centers.
If we,
For
How-
resident,
when residents, when there's an open room at a facility,
Yeah, do you have information pertaining to that, or is it the nursing home itself?
the homes themselves
Oh, I
would
see.
keep that.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
you don't keep any information on that at all then?
No.
Okay.
well, as a volunteer, we do ask the number of vacant rooms that a facility may have. We determine how many residents are currently occupying space, and then how many rooms they may have vacant. So that may be on our reports at some point in time. You may
Well, I
see
just
that.
noticed, we had 1,558 licensed beds in Cabarrus County. And out of curiosity, at any given time, what would be the vacancy rate?
I would say in our nursing homes, they stay probably at a 90% full rate. And it's hard, I would say it's hard to determine that because they have so many folks coming in and going out on a regular basis because they are rehab focused now. Many of our nursing homes are. I would say our assisted livings sit somewhere between 70 and 80% full.
That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
You did a good job of talking about the committee members and the work that they do, and it is obvious that it's a little bit more than showing up for a meeting once a quarter like some of our committees are. With the change in the appointment policy in that they come to you for training first, wanted to make sure that we made it clear to folks that might be watching this on television as to the process they go through to apply for one of these positions. So they still come to the county manager's office for an application, or do they need to contact you directly? Or how does that work?
It would probably be easiest for them to still contact the county.
Okay.
We are still using the volunteer application. That has not changed. And in the, I know if the county clerk office receives that, they forward that to me.
Right.
I usually get it within just hours of time. And then I will talk with that individual before we go further to make sure they understand the requirements.
Great, and usually there are 4 or 5 vacancies, I think, most of the time on that committee. How frequently do individual volunteers go on these visits, just to kind of give folks an idea of what's required?
The, what we normally share with folks is to expect about 6 to 8 hours a month. Would you say that that's accurate from your perspective?
Correct. We have 2 different teams for the Adult Care Home Committee. We have a team that goes Monday through Friday on their visits, and another team that does mostly weekends. So, and I'm on the team that does mostly weekends. So it just varies on how many people can go. If only 2 people can go, we call that a friendly visit because we're not able to really submit a report. So there may be times where we have gone and only 2 people can go, and we just talk to the residents and to the staff just to see how things are going, but we have to have at least 3 volunteers to go on a regular basis to do a report.
Right. And,
If-
go ahead. I'm sorry.
If I could add, in order to be eligible, the individual must also be a resident of Cabarrus County, and they may not have any conflict of interest, which would include a direct relative living in one of the homes or any financial interest in one of the homes.
Right.
But if they have someone living in the nursing home, they could still serve on the Adult Care Home Committee. So if they're interested, I would still like to talk to them.
Right. So Commissioner Shue mentioned the number of beds in the county. How many facilities do we have individual facilities that you guys cover?
I want to say it's right at 20 or 21. I think it's right at 20 or 21. I
Okay.
think it's 20. Thank you.
Right, so that includes both categories, assisted living and nursing homes,
Yes.
both?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Did you have any other questions? Well, we appreciate the work that you do, and hopefully, some folks will hear this discussion, and we'll get some other good volunteers that will step up to help carry part of the load.
Sure. Thank you for hearing us, and thank you for your time and your support.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Okay, we move now to item 3.2 from Infrastructure and Asset Management, Courthouse Recording Devices Ban Update from Kyle Billifer.
This is just an update. We've spoken about this at a couple board meetings. To give you an idea, all of the lockers are installed, the safe is installed, and we've done all of our training with courthouse security. In addition, all the signs, both in Spanish and English, were put on the courthouse steps advising folks that it will be going, the ban on those mobile devices and cellular devices will happen on June 1st. Those signs went up on May 1st. We're now beginning the process of redesigning the interior signage, so when you get into the main lobby or vestibule of the courthouse, that will explain all the procedures that go along with this process. And we're working with the Sheriff's Department on that. As they write their procedure out, we'll have that. And Judge McGee and Judge Hamby have finalized that direct order and signed that, and that has been sworn in. So it is happening on June 1st.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Billifer? Great. Hope that goes smoothly. And I think you have our next item, which is parking deck update.
Correct. Could you, yes, sorry. I just wanted to kind of show you an aerial of the site. It's actually more in depth than that. They're moving pretty quickly with everything. Final count was 251 auger cast and piles to a depth of 65 feet below the pile cap. You can see in those pictures, they're already grading, they've already put up the retaining walls now. In fact, last week was waterproofing a lot of the retaining walls. The shallow foundations are in, and if you drive by the site, you will see what they call their Perry system, which is their elevated deck shoring system. It's kind of how they build their vertical walls. It's how they move so quickly. So if you drive by, you'll see what looks like prefabricated framing that's actually being staged and built down on the property across from Barbara Scotia that they're leasing. And then it's literally carried up the road, put in place, and there's concrete poured into it. And then they basically, what they call is they wreck it or they rip down that actual Perry system, and the wall is standing. So it's what enables them to move so quickly. So everything is on process right now. We're actually right on process with everything with masonry. We've ordered, everything has been ordered that should be coming in, and we're actually starting to really dive into the rough cuts and knockouts of our different electronic devices to make sure we have the conduit coming out of the walls at the exact locations.
Very good. Any questions?
Just one quick question. Y'all know I go to Duke a lot, and they got parking decks up there everywhere. And I know we have talked a little bit about this particular parking deck, about paying to park and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know if it's going to be something that we'll do in the beginning, but I think, Kyle, you mentioned at one time that the conduit and the wiring and all that stuff would be in place in case we did that. But the question that I have is, are we preparing for manned stations or unmanned stations if we do that?
Unmanned. The deck was not designed, meaning the width of your entrances is not designed for a manned station, as
Okay.
you call it.
Well-
Not only is it wired, we actually have a bulk of the actual devices to be able to take credit cards and cash and things like
Good.
that. We're working with ITS to make sure it's all compatible with our system. In fact, what's more important is that it's compatible with our card reader system, so that the folks that do pay a full year in advance or months or are given free parking there will have the swipe cards that are compatible with our system. So Todd Shanley and myself have put a lot of work into that, and Michael Miller and myself are kind of evaluating all the decks in the area, both private and governmental, to try to come up with where we fall in the price range. I don't believe that we don't have that spreadsheet done yet, but we have been gathering all that information, and that'll be coming in front of the board in the next few months.
Yeah, we do intend to have that conversation with you before it opens. Because there's gonna be a lot of different groups parking in there, including county employees. And currently, the employees that park in our decks here pay. That's county employees. So I know with the jurors, we're required to do that, so there'll probably be some kind of a token system for that. But everybody else, it may be something that you might want to consider.
Well, like I said, I know it's all premature, but we've been talking off and on a little bit here and a little bit there about that. But the system does work really good, because I know when I go to Duke, I park, I get a little ticket when I go in, and then on the way out, it says, take your ticket with you, and then you pay on your way out before you ever get in your car. And then when you get down to exit, you stick your ticket in, and it shows it's paid, and you're on your way, and it's very simple. So I'm sure you're looking at all those type things.
Yes, those same type of systems that you're
Well,
talking about.
Well, it just, don't create work and create more expense.
Okay, any other questions?
Completion date?
Still set for January. That's substantial, so we've got a lot of time after that to get all these bells and whistles working.
Okay. If there are no other questions, we'll move on to discussion items for action at our May 21st meeting. First up is Cabarrus County Schools. Kelly Klutz and Brian Combs talk about the Performance Learning Center project.
Thank you
Welcome.
Thank you for allowing us to be here. We have two agenda items for you. The first one is the PLC project. The request here is to transfer funds from one budgeted item to another budgeted item. We're asking to move $80,000 from the architectural line item into $20,000 into construction and $60,000 into furniture and equipment. And I brought my trustee, Brian Cohn, to explain the details and help answer questions.
Yeah, so the original budget for this project had a specific line that Ms. Klutz alluded to for $100,000 for architectural services. This project delivery method was a design-build process, which means we actually contracted directly with the general contractor, who in turn had the scope of architectural design services under his umbrella. So we did not in turn pay directly for the architectural services on this project because it was under the general contractor scope. What the additional $100,000 that was budgeted for this project covered were a safety net, if you want to say, so that if the design team that was ultimately chosen, say we really favored the contractor, felt like they would do a good job for us, but the design team maybe not have been up to par what we wanted, this kind of gave us a safety net, so to speak, so that we could maybe bring a third party in and work through that design and be an advocate for the school system. Well, this is not the case because we have Lyles Construction as a local contractor, as our general contractor, and then Morrisburg Architectural Firm as our design team. So both parties we've worked with numerous times over the years, have had great success with them, and we don't feel like that the need of that $100,000 can be justified now and can certainly be used more proactively in other sections of this project, which one, we ultimately budgeted the overall budget was $4 million. Our construction came in about $20,000 higher. So I then went to Kelly and said, can we maybe look to consider moving some of this money to help offset that $20,000 expenditure? We had already gone through the process of value engineering the job down to that point and just didn't feel like we would jeopardize the overall look of the project if we tried to pull any more out of it from a value engineering standpoint. So that $20,000 would go to the construction, and then also we felt like we were underfunded on our FF&E, so that $60,000 would help to subsidize that as we work through the procurement of our furniture.
And that FF&E budget was determined by us, but it was because we promised the commissioners that we would stay under $4 million. And so we were continuing to hold our promise to stay under $4 million. And of course, so some of those budgets got tightened up over the time. So at this point, we are short in our FF&E budget. And since these dollars are budgeted and we don't plan to use them in that area, we'd like to transfer those.
Okay, questions for Mr. Cone or Ms. Klutz?
I'm just curious why we're not considering the contingency on that. We got 240,000 contingency, why we're not considering that and taking that line item out altogether?
We usually hold our contingency for the very last. If there's savings that we can find within the budget, we always go there first and then go to contingency. If the commissioners and the management would like for us to do something different, we're certainly willing to do that. But that's just been our practice, is to hold contingency till last.
Is the contingency inside the contract or it's outside?
It's outside.
That's
Oh, is that his question?
That's why.
I understand.
That's why we're doing it.
Yeah, it's outside the contract.
And so the contingency is what takes us over the 4 million.
Right.
If
So
we don't use the contingency, we'll still,
we'll still be at $4 million. Mhm.
right.
So $240,000 was the planned contingency. Is that right? $240,000 was the planned contingency. So with the contingency, it would be 4.240, but we are still intend to stick to the $4 million without the contingency.
Okay.
I think you said on the FF&E, you're still working to, you're
We are.
still massaging that number?
We are, yes, sir.
Okay, so how confident are you that the 60's gonna do it and,
Very confident,
okay?
yes.
Good.
Yep, it won't be a problem.
Okay, other questions? All right, thank you very much. And we move now to item 4.7, request for West Cabarrus High School contingency funds, and that will be Ms. Klutz and Mr. Tim Louder.
Thank you again. For this project, a little bit different than the project we just discussed as the PLC. When we did our initial planning, we planned for $1.6 million in contingency for this project. We have been to you before and asked for a release of $600,000 of that, and now today an $860,000 release of those funds. And again, I will let my handy Tim Louder explain the details of why that is necessary at this point. But if this change is approved by the commissioners and the board, it'll need to be approved by the Board of Education tonight at the same time. There would be an approximate balance of $200,000 left in the intended and planned contingency. I know that the county certainly has cash flow issues that I certainly respect and understand, but that was the initial plan. So I'll let Tim talk about that.
As you say, we are still, we came to you earlier talking about some of the soil conditions we had there, and were able to fund some portion of the project through those bad soils. We pretty much exhausted pretty much all the good materials we could mine from site due to the water table. And in doing so, had to import some soils to last right at 19,000 yards of soil we had to import in order to build up the main portion of the site, including the parking lots and that sort of thing. We also lowered the parking lot about 5 feet, added some additional slope to it in order to reduce it by 5,000 yards, trying to reduce that amount. In addition to that, we also had about $460,000 worth of changes due to permitting requirements that we had after we bid the project through the City of Concord. Most of those are upsizing of utilities, changing out some sewer line and then putting for duct line and that sort of thing, and also adding ramps. And then the other portion is obviously adding the road connection to the adjacent subdivision. And those were kind of requirements that they put on us and said, you know, this is what you'll have to have before you receive a permit from us. So, but, you know, due to the short time frame we did during the design process, those couldn't be, you know, adjusted prior to bid. We had to do it kind of after the fact. we are still continuing to massage those with the city of Concord and negotiate some of that $464,000, obviously. Some of them we feel like don't really benefit us as much as it benefits maybe the city of Concord. And so we're asking them to either provide relief or maybe provide assistance for that as we get into the project.
Yeah, wasn't one of them upsizing a sewer line for their
Upsizing
purposes?
A water line, yes, sir.
Or a water line. So-
And extending the water line basically is an interconnection to the adjacent subdivision, which,
Right.
really doesn't benefit us, other than the fact it creates a better system, obviously.
Sure.
But it doesn't really.
Have you had
necessarily-
that conversation yet?
We've had discussions about it, haven't really come back to us with a
I'll
decision.
join you
Okay.
with that.
The connecting road to the adjacent subdivision is my understanding correct, that that's just an emergency exit? It's not going to be used for regular traffic?
We originally designed it as basically a glorified sidewalk, a 20-foot wide paved area to allow for emergency access for, fire trucks and ambulance services, that sort of
Right.
thing. City of Concord asked us to make that a full-size road connection. We do not, as a school system, intend to use that as one of our exits or entrances, only for emergency purposes, but they felt like it needed to meet the roadway standards, which means come back and we widen it to 24 feet, curb and gutter, and then sidewalks and adjacent to that. So those were some of the additions we had on that situation. But we do
Well,
intend to have a gate there and only use that for emergency purposes.
That is still your intention?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
The gate's
because I
still-
feel sure some of the residents of that area probably will hear this discussion and have that question. So even though we don't plan to use it, except for emergency purposes, the city's requiring us to have a full-fledged road?
Yes, sir.
What kind of price tag are we looking at on that?
That was right at about $50,000 total, everything.
Uh-huh.
That's, not a lot of money when you look at it, but it's still a lot of money.
Right.
I guess, in the big scheme of things.
A lot of
it's not
money to
big-
me.
But, it is something that we had to deal with. We feel like, we don't want to use it as a major road in and out because we want to be able to control the access and the flow of cars in and out of the site. We have a stoplight and that sort of thing on Weddington Road, and we want all of our student traffic to come in and out that direction. We do not wish for them to go out the back way or come in the back way in the mornings, that sort of thing. Also, all of our bus traffic comes back out to Weddington Road, and Weddington Road used to distribute our traffic from there. So, we really don't want that to be a traffic pattern issue for us on site.
So what is their rationale in wanting that as a regular paved road?
I think it was just more from the standpoint of they will serve this school for emergency purpose from fire station, I think it's number 5 out off of International Drive. And everything has to come in then from Popper Tent and then down, I think it's Stagecoach, and it ties in the backside of, and then comes in through that direction. That's the closest route for anything emergency, and they're large trucks. They preferred to have it a full-size road to be able to bring that trucks. They bring pretty large trucks and obviously fire trucks in for the firefighting of that school, pretty good sized site.
Where does that road come in? The back road, does it come?
Harrison?
So it'll come right into Harrison?
Yes, ma'am. Of course, it is a fairly short, if you came from George Lyle's in, Harrison's way back in your
Right.
subdivision, so it really doesn't make sense for anything to come in, but from an access back out to Popper 10, I guess it is much shorter.
Trying to figure out where the road would come onto Harrison.
Well, Harrison stubs out right at the end of the.
Yeah,
it
I go
stubs out.
home on it every day, so.
And Harrison stubs out directly and it just ends right at our property line, so we're just picking up and extending right on into the site.
So you said the parking area is where you held the grade down 5
On the
feet?
front, yes, sir.
You're currently on grade? So,
We lowered it 5 feet.
but you're now on grade?
Yes,
We're
sir.
done
Oh, yes, sir,
trucking
and
dirt.
curb and gutters are going in as we speak, and stone will be down next week.
Okay, all right. So is the dewatering, whatever the permanent solution is it in place?
Yes, sir, and it's working pretty well, but of course it wasn't cheap. But we were able to at least get all the water off of us and protect the work we'd already had done.
Okay.
Okay, other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up is item 4.8, Kannapolis City Schools, Carver Elementary School, and we are happy to have Will Crabtree with us.
Good afternoon. Thank you for allowing me to be here. coming to discuss a project at Carver Elementary School. If you'll recall, the commissioners awarded us funding to renovate that school, and it's been a great success. This was the what was known as the Kannapolis Intermediate School that has been turned into Carver Elementary School. The one thing that we were not able to accomplish with the first renovation was moving the office from the middle of the school to the front of the school. Why this is a big priority for us is it's because it's a safety issue. Now visitors can come into the school and go pretty much wherever they want before they reach the office. So we were proposing to build a security vestibule and move the office to the front of the school. We accomplished all of our renovations, and we had approximately, I think it said 130, but after I looked today, it's more like $120,000 left. We have bid out that project into two parts, just to get an idea of the cost of it. The base bid was for building the security vestibule, moving the receptionist, the SRO's office, and a workroom to the front of the school. That base bid was $118,148. The alternate would be to move the principal, the assistant principal, and literacy person from the middle school up to the front of the school also, and convert a existing room into a conference room. The figure on that was $99,047. So originally what we were coming to ask you about was if we could take the money that's already allotted to Carver, use it to pay for the $118,148 movement of the security vestibule to the front. In my discussions with county staff, they informed me that there could possibly be $50,000 in lottery proceeds that could be used to maybe try to do the rest of the project too at the same time. So I just want to go ahead and put that possibility out on the table also. We still would not have quite enough funding, but I talked to them, and I do not know if we're going to receive any capital money in the 18-19 year. But if we did, we would like to pair that, and the difference is about $49,000 with the $50,000 in lottery funds to be able to finish this project all at once this summer.
So when you say bid and alternate bid, it's actually two separate projects. Bid for this project, bid for this project.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
So the 118-148 project could be done standalone, separate from the 99, and the 99 could be done actually at a later time from the 118, just the way the building is constructed now. We would prefer if we could piece together funding to have it done at once, but the 118-148, the security vestibule, is a very high priority for us to address that security concern at the school.
So if you did that, it would move the security vestibule, but then when you buzz somebody in, they'd still have to go all the way down the hall to the principal's office, right? Or to the staff office?
Not for the 118. We'd be able to construct the security vestibule and also move the receptionist and SRO office to the front of the school. Yeah. Now, if they had to see the principal or the assistant principal, we would have to find a way to get them through to the middle of the school.
Right.
It'd just be much more convenient and safer to have everybody at the front. But the security vestibule is definitely the top priority.
Right. So how many schools do you have in Kannapolis City Schools with a similar situation like that needs to be remedied?
We really don't have any to this extent where the office is in the middle of the school and there's just such a wide path between the front door to that school, to the office. We do have some other schools which we've taken steps to fix, but most of the offices are either at the front door or very near the front door. We've added vestibules where we can, as far as some schools, we've built the entrance straight into the office where it used to go in, and you have to move that. We've done that. We've also have A-phones at every school where you have to be buzzed in to get in. There are a couple other schools. I'm thinking of Fred L. Wilson, Shady Brook, and the older Kannapolis Middle School, where we'd like to do some minor changes. The middle school, we would like to just have the entrance go straight into the office. Fred L. Wilson, we would like to have the entrance just go straight into the office. And Shady Brook, something similar, have the entrance go straight into the office. So those are all capable of handling those, but it's nowhere near the priority that Carver was, just because of if you've ever been there, you know you have wide open access to the school.
Oh, I'm familiar with it, and I've walked in the front door, and I could have walked anywhere in the school I wanted to.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, questions for Mr. Crabtree?
Not necessarily for Mr. Crabtree, but when he mentions paying something for lottery funds, I guess I'm a little confused. I thought all the lottery funds went to debt service. Is that not the case?
All lottery funds that are in your budget, we budget $2 million a year for debt service. However, there are some funds that come in over the $2 million, and that's what, there's some available for Cabarrus and for Kannapolis City Schools.
So the revised number 120 is enough to pay for the first phase. We just have to figure out what to do with the second phase, and that was just, you were offering up a solution.
Correct.
Okay.
And the additional money, the $49,000, could potentially come from your contingency, I believe. Right? Yeah.
So my question is, on the agenda that we'll approve at the end, it has that on the consent agenda. If we agree to that, what are we agreeing to, since we don't know where the balance of the funds?
Both of these, all three of these school items should be moving to your new business.
Okay,
Yeah, that's what I would recommend.
okay, thank you.
Okay, I'm not seeing the Kannapolis City Schools one on our consent agenda. Yeah, okay, yeah, so we're talking about moving that down to
Yeah, it should come up.
G4, and then F1 moving down also.
Yes.
And that, okay. All right, any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, next item on our agenda, Duke Energy easement at Cottle Creek Reservoir. Jonathan Marshall.
I actually have two Duke Energy easements.
Do I need to stay for mine?
You're welcome to.
I'm-
I was trying to get that out quickly. The first one is at Cottle Creek Reservoir. There is a map on, it is page 24, Angela. But these are some line improvements. In fact, you may have already seen some of these improvements underway along Highway 73 below the dam. Duke is asking for an easement to add some poles and add some additional guy wires on some poles in that area. Mr. Cook has done an initial review of the easement document, and I provided some comments back to Chris Branch with Duke Energy. I've also sent this over to WASAC to review, since they manage and operate the reservoir for us, and they had no comments other than they were fine with these improvements.
Are these to accommodate the Amazon facility that's under construction?
I suspect it is, he's not said, but there are general improvements going all the way to that site.
Right.
So I suspect it is a power supply to that. And then the second one, just below that, is Kannapolis Middle School, as Mr. Crabtree just said. I guess we'll call that the old middle school now.
They call it the Eagle's Nest, so.
The Eagle's Nest. You had previously approved a cellular site, which is a light standard that has been or being replaced to provide cell service in that area. There's a lease for that then benefits the school, Kannapolis City Schools. Duke Energy needed a power supply to this, so I also sent that to Mr. Crabtree to review the routing, and they have approved that route and the easement that goes along with that. That diagram is on page 30. And again, this is going to a light standard at the football field, so it'll still be a light standard, but it'll also function as a cell site.
So on that diagram where you've got labeled Kannapolis Middle School, is that the old one or the new? That's the new one, right?
That's the old one.
That's the
That's the
old
old one,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Because this is the existing football field just below that.
okay.
Down there, yeah.
Okay, any questions for Mr. Marshall? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, Mount Pleasant Middle School Sale Offer Review, Kyle and Jonathan.
Our last upset bid process ended on April 27th, and we did not receive another upset bid. So the bid stands. It was actually the second bid from this entity, from Corporate Funding Associates 2 LLC, for a total of $601,326. So that was the final bid that came in. Some of the information they've provided, and you all have a hard copy in front of you, is some supplemental information to the purchase that bid. It's a one-page Word document, and that gives some documentation and information about what the potential owner's desires for the facility are. I can read it out loud if you'd like, but I see that most of you are already reading it already.
I think either you or I, one, should read it out loud for benefit of the
Okay.
television audience.
If you want to, you're more than welcome, or I will gladly.
Go right ahead.
Okay. We have looked at this site extensively, and we feel we have a good understanding of the potential and challenges this site will bring. Our group of local investors believe in giving back to this small community that has been good to us. We want to see this community grow in a controlled and well-planned fashion while keeping the small-town charm its residents have come to enjoy. Our vision incorporates a mixed-use approach. Our estimates show the cost of asbestos abatement and removal of old structures to be $1,170,692 on the low side and $1,751,956 on the high side. Adding this cost to our bid price, the performer shows the actual land investment cost to be $112,099 per acre on the low side and $146,407 an acre on the high side. This will be a cash sale with no outside financing involved. We feel this is a reasonable offer considering the amount of asbestos abatement that is needed. The unknown variable is that there are 2 underground fuel storage tanks with some age on them. At this time, we do not know if there is any contaminated soil that will need remediation due to leakage. Our redevelopment plans include an anchor grocery store, a C-store, convenience store, general retail, food and auto parts store along the North Carolina Highway 49 corridor with luxury townhomes along the North Drive Street. Our master plan includes a pedestrian-friendly community and various amenities to encourage families to get outdoors. We envision a small sports field for residents and the community to enjoy as well. I would love the opportunity to discuss purchase of the existing land currently used for the ball fields across North Drive, so this could be incorporated into the master plan. The current plan also includes renovation of the auditorium and old gym to be available to the community for recreation and small civics events, if so desired by the town of Mount Pleasant. Smaller offices could be renovated with outside storefronts for key man office space and small business owners. We think this plan is viable. It is something that the local citizens would be proud of and would produce a tax base of over $35 million to the town of Mount Pleasant and Cabarrus County. If this offer is accepted, we are prepared to close within 28 calendar days from the bid acceptance. Thank you for allowing us to bring this plan to you, and we appreciate your serious consideration.
Okay.
I had asked that that potential owner reach out to Commissioner Poole, since she is the liaison with the town of Mount Pleasant, and I don't know if they have, but I did make that clear to them. Sorry.
That's all right. I had a voice message and apparently wrote down the wrong phone number. So when I've tried to call them back, I got an odd entity, not your fault. So, and I knew that you were going to have something for us tonight, so.
The potential owner could not attend this meeting tonight, which is why I asked him to prepare this. I have told them that the board might request them to be at the regular session meeting, and if you so desire, I will send that message.
I think, given the very public nature of this project, if they could be present, I think that would be great. And so the final purchase price will be, and I'm looking through a long string of them here.
$601,326.
Okay. All right, any other questions for Kyle?
The only question I would have is, I see the closing date's May 25th. Our meeting's May 21st. Is that a closing date they would still anticipate closing on, even though we wouldn't?
That was on the actual offer sheet that they submitted. In this summary, they talk about that it would
28
be
days.
28 days after the
Okay.
bid acceptance. And of course, this would all be contingent on working with the county attorney and our real estate broker on this. But again, you have the right to refuse it for any reason.
So that would be 28 days from when we accept it.
Yes,
Which would be at our regular meeting.
That is correct.
Yeah.
And they've acknowledged that, but when they submit these bid offers, there's no way to know when the
Right.
upset bid's gonna, expire and when the next meeting is, so,
They also have an examination period
yes.
that runs till May 24th, which is the day before the closing. So I assume that if the closing date's going to change, probably the examination date will change as well.
I would suspect you're right. They have done a fair amount of due diligence, that group. We've been in there with them several times.
Okay. Yes,
Kyle,
sir.
Yes, they express interest in the north other side there where the ball fields are. I think we had talked about leaving those until we found something differently.
That's correct. That is not included in this.
No, it's not part of it. No, I know, but they said they had interest in it and would like to include that in their master plan. So,
Correct, but for them to do that, then they would have to come back to you with another offer on that, but it'd also be contingent upon those ball fields stay in use until we're able to.
right, yeah, okay, we're on the same page. I just wondered, how serious they were about those fields and of course, we haven't put it up for sale or anything, that part.
Right.
So there hasn't been any request for
Yeah,
bids or
I think
anything.
they're trying to get some kind of idea if you would be willing to sell it to them in the future so that they, as they pay somebody to do that master plan, they could go ahead and incorporate those acres.
We've been moving forward with your instructions to look for some other possible ball fields or areas where we could build some ball fields, but would not bring that other parcel back to you until we'd found that and been able to develop those.
Well, I think we're on the same page, there's no doubt. This particular entity that's wanting to buy this property, their intentions are good, I do believe, and I think it definitely would be an asset to the community. And they desperately need something down there other than what they've got. So, as for myself, I don't have any problem with it, just like they want to do it. And then if we, at some point, find property for some ball fields, and they still have interest in that, then we could talk to them.
I would urge the board that when Mr. Earnhardt, if he is able to attend, there might want to be some discussion about, as they move forward with the purchase, would they be open to allowing patrons to still park on the main parcel while they use those fields until that site is developed? And that's probably better coming from the board than it is staff, but that is a need that if we could have some sort of discussion about that, some good faith effort might help out.
Okay, other questions, comments? Okay, hearing none, we move to item 4.5, Planning and Development, Amendment to Agreement with Water and Sewer Authority to collect fees, and we're happy to have Kelly Sifford.
Regarding amending the agreement that we have for the collection of development fees for the connection of water and sewer service in the county. The current agreement we have is approximately 20 years old and is based on a percentage of collected dollars. The House Bill 436 from the 2017 session places restrictions on how fees are implemented in water and sewer services providers. So WASAC has been advised after doing an analysis of their fees as they are currently structured that they should probably change the structure of that to a flat rate fee. They have proposed $55,320 annually rather than a percentage of the collections. This is kind of an average of what we have seen over the past 10 years and does, in essence, support an administrative person, a permit clerk, to handle permitting. But that task is across all of the permit clerks.
Okay. Questions?
This has been an area you've been aware of quite a bit of litigation, settlements, a lot of things going on throughout the state on impact fees, charged for impact fees, system fees. They've had a bunch of different names, and of course this legislation came out to help solve some of those issues, primarily for municipalities. For water and sewer authorities, which had the ability under the statutes to charge these fees, and they're charging the capital recovery fees, it did change some of the things, some of the practices they needed to follow. So these will now be called system development fees, which will take me a while to get used to. They have reassessed, gone through and had a financial firm reassess those fees to make sure they comply with the statutes. That's all been completed and presented to the WASAC board. This is just one of the last changes now, is to update our agreement. And we did feel like the set fee made more sense. It seems to be more in keeping with the statute. It does not harm us in terms of revenues for the staff time that we put towards this. In fact, what we've done is average the revenues we've received over the years, and they've added a little bit to it to arrive at that 55,000 plus.
And Mr. Cook has reviewed the revised document that they sent over.
That's correct.
Okay, any questions? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, that takes us now to the approval of our regular meeting agenda. We have talked about a couple of changes already. That would be moving F1 to be G4, that's Cabarrus County Schools, and F4, Kannapolis City Schools, to be G5. Does anyone see any other corrections or amendments that we need to make to that? Okay, hearing none, then I would entertain a motion to approve the regular meeting agenda with the two changes I just described. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. That motion passes. I do not think we have need of a closed session tonight, so at this time, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. All opposed, no. And we stand adjourned. Thank you.